Pow. Pow. What does the
Oh my
fox
gosh.
say? You
That
do
was
you
like
ever
in the beginning, it looked like you were throwing your voice. And then all of a
did
sudden
it?
it like synced back up again.
Maybe I was. Maybe
Maybe
I'm
you
magic.
were.
Maybe it's Zoom magic.
Maybe. Hey, have you ever seen that Family Guy episode where, what does he call it? Steve?
I don't
Steve is
remember,
like
but yes.
the zit on his face that like talks. It's actually a really gross episode to watch. Anyways, I brought my little friend today.
So our second episode with the podcast guest. Good deal.
Oh my
And in case you're just tuning in and wondering what in God's green earth is going on here, this is the Life Unfiltered podcast. I'm Justin DeWeese. That's my unbelievably beautiful wife, Ashley DeWeese. She's doing a weird thing with her hands for those of you that are just listening and not watching. And her friend Steve, apparently.
No, don't call it Steve. Like that's no. Anyways,
Okay,
it's one of those
Zachariah.
things where I'm just like, look, I have a pimple forming on my forehead and I'm just pointing it out.
Right, like you did on last week's episode. You're 8 miling them. I get it.
Right.
I'm going
It's
to
what
take
I
all the
do.
bullets out of your gun. What are you going to do about it?
Appreciate that. Before we get to talking about whatever we're going to get talking about, did you know that today is National Acai Bowl Day?
Is it
It is. So
amazing?
$2 off acai bowls at Happy Hippie, by the way.
Quick shout out. We're not affiliated at all. We don't get anything from them if you guys go there. So, we just like it. And so we mention it.
And if you're a listener that doesn't live where we live, sorry that you don't have access. You should travel here just to
Sorry,
try
not
it.
sorry.
But anyways, I thought I'd tell you that you, specifically my husband, that it was
Oh, no,
National
I get
Acai.
what you're getting at. I get what you're getting at.
You're picking up what I'm putting down.
No, every day, girl.
Great.
I spent half my life picking up what you and the kids put down and putting
Oh,
it back where it's supposed to go.
let me play the tiny violin. Let me play
You're
the
supposed to say the world's tiniest violin.
Gosh.
Gosh.
I would just like to also say that, since we've been talking about a lot of this, I feel the need to say that I am done being in ERs and doctor's offices for at least a couple of months. Like, just hit my limit.
You know what the old saying is, though? Man plans and God giggles.
I guess. So, real quick,
So
I went to the ER the second time last week, maybe. I don't know. All the days blur together at this point. But I did go a second time because I was having some pains that would not go away. It was ridiculous. Everything turned out fine, but that was not fun. And then we were at a soccer game this weekend for Daxter, and a ball was kicked out of bounds, hit my mom's arm. My mom is 75 years old. She has very thin skin. She
it's like
can
paper mache, that stuff.
literally like do hardly anything to it and it will break and bleed. But of course, out of all the people on the sideline, the ball hits her arm, slides up in a slow-mo way for those of us sitting right next to her.
Quite
And
slow-mo.
quite slow-mo, and tore off the top layer of her skin on her arm, and blood was everywhere. And we went to the ER for that just to make sure it wasn't infected and all that good stuff. So anyways, I'm over it. Just I needed to publicly declare that by, maybe God would actually hear the public declaration and, be willing to help me out in that regard.
Perhaps. And just for all the lifers out there, if you're curious as to what it looks like when you skin a human being, we have pictures. We will share them with you. It's disgusting.
DMS.
I'll leave it at
gross. That. It's gross. Anyways, that's all I have for today. So we spent the day yesterday with I don't know,
fifth graders.
Fifth graders, mostly fifth grade boys, on a field trip out of town. Actually, wasn't
Science
that bad.
City.
Science
It really
City.
wasn't.
It wasn't. They're pretty good kids.
Well, and in the continuum of field trips, something like Science City is good because it's hands-on and there's a lot of different things to engage themselves. Like I remember when I was in fourth grade, maybe, because we came from Kansas City. So probably fourth grade, we took a field trip to the Kansas Museum of Natural History.
Oof.
Ugh, shoot me in the face.
And I enjoy history. I don't enjoy history museums
Listen,
for the most part.
I would enjoy it now.
Yeah.
Like I would find a lot of that stuff fascinating. I can't fathom taking that group of fifth graders to something like that and
Sure.
trying to maintain any sort of order.
Well, the thing is, I'm also not one for like guided, and we didn't have a guided tour yesterday, which was one of the benefits, but like I'm not one for like guided tours or someone else showing me around and talking to me about the things. I kind of I kind of just want to roam around and do what I want to do and be free. And I think that's what kids
Of
want as
course.
well. So that was helpful that we just had the freedom to take our small little group of boys around and just let them do what they wanted to do when they wanted to do it, kind of thing.
Yeah. And, lifers, this is a good, just pulling back the curtains moment on my beautiful wife there. Let me explain something to y'all. Because you heard what she just said. She doesn't want a guided tour. She wants the freedom to roam and explore and do whatever she wants. Okay. That's her. Also, I need somebody to give me a step by step plan and show me exactly what needs to be done and when and how and all the things.
Look,
So,
I like a
it's
little
a dichotomy.
I like a little bit of structure with some
A little bit.
room to breathe and flexibility within that structure. I want to know that there's a goal, that there's like a greater outcome. Like what's the outcome, right?
Sure, sure. I get
I
it.
mean, it was like the time we took the baby moon up the coast of California, right? The Pacific Highway or whatever that
Yeah,
highway is. And I mean, I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that I was pregnant, not just who I am, but
perhaps.
perhaps. But yeah,
Well, I
there was
mean,
like no plan. And so I got frustrated because I was like, where are we going? Like, what's the plan? Where are we going to be stopping for lunch? Are we stopping in this town? Are we doing that? Like, it wasn't, you're right. Like, I don't just like the completely,
and I'm like, let's
I
just
don't
ramble
know.
up PCH1 and see what happens. But that leads me to another thing. And this is I need interaction here, gang. So if you're watching or listening to this, I'm gonna need a comment on one of the reels or on the YouTube or whatever. When a woman is pregnant, does she have all of her personality traits amplified and maybe some of the normal inhibitions lowered? So normally when you'd keep your mouth shut, you throw it out there and say the thing you're going to say, get frustrated, cravings, whatever. So is that Ashley amplified, for example?
Or is it like
Or do
new?
they become a completely different human being?
I mean, I think he didn't ask for my opinion, but I'm going to give it to
I'm
you
always
anyway.
asking for your opinion, Luscious.
I think it's probably a combination of both, right? Like there's a little bit of truth there of who that person is, and it's just kind of amplified. And I think there's like some new things that come into play because the hormones are doing
Firing
what
on all
what the
cylinders.
hormones do or whatever. So I don't know. Good question though.
You know how you make a hormone?
Oh, oh my gosh. Stop.
No,
No. Nope. Nope. I am I don't want to know where you're going with it because it could be going in a different direction than what I thought in my brain, but it's also likely that it's going in the same direction that I thought in my brain. And so we're just
I
gonna
guess we'll
I'm
never know.
I guess we'll never know is right. You can privately DM Justin for the punchline to that joke. Okay? Okay. Only if you're a male. Females, stay out of my man's inbox.
Oh, she put it down. Notice has been served.
Um, I thought we thought we changed it up a little bit today. I mean, not really, because you got a whole bunch of unfilteredness there at the beginning, but and you're still gonna get unfilteredness, but we thought we've got some questions here today that I thought were great questions that perhaps would lead into some of our just organic conversations. So the rules are we're gonna ask a question of each other, of course, listen for the response,
We have these
chit chat
sheets.
about whatever we feel like chit chatting about if we want to elaborate. But can't ask like whatever question he asked me, I can't ask that question of him. So once it's off the sheet, it's gone.
It's gone forever
Right.
into the annals of history.
The annals.
Yeah, ANNALS. Look it up
Like, do
later.
you sit down before this and be like, this is the word I'm gonna throw out for her today that she's not gonna know? You have
I
like a little
mean,
bet going on with yourself. Will
I
she
would
know
like
this
to
one or
think
not?
that, and that'd be another fun interaction for the lifers. Shoot me a word and I will work it into conversation. Easy
Ooh.
peasy. Okay.
Even though I
That
will be the butt of that, like I really like
there's
that.
that. But no, my vocabulary is robust.
Mm.
And I just, stuff comes out.
Uh,
I don't know where it comes from.
Stuff does come out. Divine intervention, I suppose.
Skeet, skeet, skeet.
Okay. Okay,
Gonna be one of them days. Let's go.
it is gonna be one of those days. I'm a little tired, by the way. Just saying that.
Well, after we're done recording here, you can put your head on my shoulder and we'll take a little nappy nap. Probably not,
Okay.
but
We'll start out easily. Describe yourself in one word. Go.
awesome.
That's pretty consistent of you.
I mean, listen, and that was the one word, okay?
Don't try to go into like multiple words now.
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
But the reality is that we all need to carry around a little bit of that belief in ourselves, right? Because here's the deal.
Sorry, I'm laughing because again, a little bit of that belief in ourselves.
Well, you
I
know
don't know
what?
what accent that is this week, people. Irish last week. I don't know what it is this
That's my
week.
success coach Southern slang.
Okay.
Okay. But the reality is this world is chock full of people that will tell you that you suck. Like there is no end to
Big
that line
facts.
of people.
Big facts.
And the reality is that like those are typically the people that you're going to hear from. Like that sucks, but it is what it is. You know, like if you look at um like go into any Instagram post, right? And the bulk of the comments are criticisms or why didn't you do this instead of that or whatever, right? You're going to very rarely hear the positive side. And so you need to be positive with yourself and you need to have that belief that at the end of the day, I'm awesome, man, because we were all fearfully and wonderfully created by the Lord our God. And you're awesome too. Talking to you specifically, sweet cheeks,
Oh.
but all the listeners as well. You're awesome. Right now, maybe you're having a bad day. I get it. We all have bad days, but that doesn't diminish your awesomeness in the least.
Well, it's a separation between who you are and what you do, right? Just want to throw that in there. Like we don't need to go into that big long thing today, but the difference between I am not the things that I do, right?
Right.
Right.
Well, and
I may have some bad habits. I may have done some bad things, but like that at my core is not who I am. But often that's how we see ourselves is I am the things that I do. And like I said, that's a conversation best left for another day. But
right, I made a note of it because you say you didn't want to go into it because I got like a billion thoughts going through this head right now.
I'm sure. Um, and I lost what I was going to piggyback on the whole like I am awesome. Oh, I would also like to say that while to a certain extent, I agree with you that there's a lot of people who are going to tell you that you suck or not tell you and just think that kind of thing. But also, it kind of depends on who you're surrounding yourself with. So I just want to make a little plug for that because if you have grabbed the reins to your life and are intentionally curating the people that you surround yourself with, be it in person, on social media, et cetera, then hopefully you're doing so in such a way that you are hearing more uplifting, positive things about yourself more often than you aren't. There's always going to be naysayers. There's always going to be haters in the comments, but I would like to think that the more intentional you are, the less of those people are going to be around. Also, if you're awesome enough, people that suck don't want to be around you.
That is true. You know, I heard a thing earlier this week. Guy said, you know, when an eagle's flying and he looks around and he sees another bird, that bird's an eagle. It
Yep,
sure as shit ain't a pigeon because pigeons don't fly at whatever altitude eagles fly at. So
exactly.
once you
The
lift yourself up to
quickest, yeah, go ahead.
the eagle atmosphere, just a bunch of other eagles out there, man.
Yeah, I
Hashtag
mean, that's
freedom.
one of the fastest ways to like take out the trash in your life, for lack of a higher class saying. But that's one of the fastest ways to take out the trash in your life or eliminate people who just aren't good for you, is to start leveling yourself up. Because ultimately, once you do that, the people who want no part of growing with you will flitter off into whatever land they're wanting to continue living in.
Well,
Like,
and here's a big nug for you, gang.
oh, already? It's so
Yeah,
early.
I get it, but it is what it is. You can't expect to level up your life and think that everyone that is currently in that life is going to stay there. Like
Yeah.
it'd be great if it happened, but more often than not, it's not going to, because a lot of those other folks that are currently there aren't looking to level up their life. And so if you are, you got to realize that some of them are going to have to go to the wayside. I'm not going to call them trash like my lovely wife did,
I was
but
just
no, I get it. I get it. I get it. Listen, totally on the same page here. Beautiful.
okay, but there's a difference between what you're saying and what I was getting at. When I was like, take out the trash, I meant like people that are just like negative Nancy's, naysayers, toxic, bringing you down, that sort of thing. I believe what you're moving into at this point is just people who aren't on the same page and moving in the same direction that you want. And there's a
Yes.
continuum of those people. But I do want to say that, that is one of, there's several, but that is one of the biggest truths that a person could embrace for themselves in life, I think, because once you accept the fact that not everyone who starts with you is going to finish with you, whether that's in a little project you're working on, whether that's at a particular season of your life or just overall life in general. Like, not every person that starts with you is going to finish with you. And I think too often we 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 aren't aware of that truth, or we don't want to see it. And so then when that shift starts to happen, I know this, we talk about this a lot, my clients and I, like when that shift starts to happen, women in particular, I don't know how men feel, but women in particular start to feel like guilty and uncomfortable because they know that they're shifting, and like they know that they're shifting for the better, but then they actually go through this period where they begin to feel bad about these positive shifts that they're making because they're seeing how it's creating some maybe tension or discomfort within their current relationships. And that could be friendships, family dynamics, spousal dynamics. And they start to then question or doubt the changes that they're making and the path that they're on and how they're evolving themselves as to whether that's correct or they should be doing it, etc. And if you just knew from the get-go that, hey, when I make a decision to move my life in different direction, period, it honestly wouldn't matter what
Right.
direction you were going in. But for our purposes, when you're making an intentional decision to better yourself and level up your life, if you just accepted from the very, very start, hey, there's going to be some people that make the choice not to come with me, and that is okay. And that is okay. Like that's another phrase. Like, and that is okay. I'm choosing this for me. Some people don't get it. Some people don't want to grow with me. And that is okay. If you just embrace that from the beginning, I think it would spare some people a lot of heartache that they go through and a lot of beating themselves up. Because I once had a good friend and mentor early on in my life who kind of said that whole thing for me. She really functioned in her life based on that concept that, people come into your life for reasons. And there is some phrase out there that's like perfect,
Reasons
but
and seasons.
yeah, I mean, there's some people that are going to be with you for a little bit. There's some people that are going to be there with you for quite a bit. And there's some going to be there with you for all of it. But know that, like, not every person that you have in your life is going to stay for the long term. And that's okay.
And see, that's why it was a big nug.
It was a big nug. It was a really big
Drop that
nug.
right on them.
Drop it like
We
it's
ready to
hot.
move on here?
Yeah, I mean, you can just flow into the things. We don't have to make a big deal
Well,
about. Now on to question number 2.
my apologies.
It's okay.
Describe how you feel right now in one
Mm.
word.
In one word?
Yeah, it's a trick question for my lovely wife because she don't ever got just one word. So sum it
I mean,
up,
I was
sweet
all ready to
cheeks.
describe how I feel, but I was not ready to just do it in one
Well, you
word.
got to wrap it up to run one word, and then you can expand. I will allow that, but it's got to be summarized.
Um,
Uno wordo.
how do I feel right now?
Yeah.
This this flat there. I feel flat right now.
Care to elaborate?
Do you want me to elaborate?
I
I didn't know if I was supposed to or allowed to.
I
Yeah,
literally said before.
I'm feeling flat right now, and I was going to say numb, which wasn't entirely accurate because I don't truly feel like completely numb of anything, but I feel very flat right now. I have a lot of different kind of emotions and things weighing on me right now, from just, business to personal to family, that I'm kind of sorting through and working through, and put the tiredness on top of it, and I just feel kind of flat. And that is something that I am always working on becoming better at, because what I tend to do, I don't know if anyone can relate, but one of my not so great habits that I have built based on my life experiences is, when I feel certain things weighing and coming at me, when there's multiple things, I tend to try to like protect myself and just like shut it down. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
So like, rather than like letting myself be all out angry or sad or whatever kind of emotion like that, I try to control it and just keep it here. And again, probably another great podcast episode of talking about, why one does that, as well as, you know, the benefits to the person who does that, but also the negative impact of that.
I was
So
going to say, question from the audience. Um, do you think then that maybe you drag out that season and prolong it by keeping
oh
it in
yeah,
like that
like it's
instead
not,
of?
I'm not like, I
No,
am
I'm just
not,
asking.
yeah, I'm not trying to promote this as a great coping mechanism, because it's not, because it does drag things out. It's kind of it's really like an avoidance tactic. This is what's so grand about being a life coach, is that you like know all of the things, and you become very aware of your own ways of doing things and things that you need to work through. So it's like, I can tell you, hey, I'm going through this. And at the same time, I absolutely know this is an unhealthy habit, Ashley, that you need to be working on. But I think that's important, kind of as a little another side nugget here, is that people who can help you in your life, they're still just people. Right. So there's all kinds of coaches and
Very true.
mentors out there, for example, who are super great at helping other people with business tactics or their life problems or their health and fitness problems, or fill in the blank. That doesn't mean that that person doesn't still have struggles of their own. So, anyways, yeah. So it's not beneficial. It's not a great coping mechanism. It definitely prolongs pain, if you will, or prolongs whatever the, negative fallout is of particular emotion. What I should be doing is sitting with those emotions, getting them out, reflecting on them, sorting through them, et cetera. And it's not something that, oh, you just sit for 10 minutes and it'll all be fixed, right? But yeah, it's an avoidance tactic, because if I actually sit with those feelings or truly face them or the scenario, uh, that could bring potential hurt and pain. And so you just close yourself off to it, right?
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Well said. And just
Hopefully,
to,
hopefully someone can relate to that.
oh, I think everybody's going to be able to relate to that. But just to go back to what you're saying about, the coaches and whatnot, not having everything figured out. It's best summed up to me by my slogan, everybody poops.
Yeah. Yeah.
We try to hide it. We try to shove it under the whatever. Don't do that with your poop, please. This is not literal advice. This is a metaphor, people. But everybody poops.
Yeah.
And we tend to look at people like, oh, Taylor Swift, man, I bet she just got it all together because she's making all this money and she's on tour and she's got this great relationship, real or not, with Travis Kelce, all these things. And it's easy to look at that and be like, man, I bet she doesn't have any flaws, any bad habits, any of that stuff. And you just got to remember everybody poops.
Yeah, and I mean, celebrities, I think, can be a little bit different, but definitely people who are in a mentorship space, or who have had success in the area of life that you want. It's really easy to be like, well, they run
No,
their
of
business.
course.
They have built this successful business or these successful businesses, and so they must know all of the ins and outs, and it's just smooth sailing for them. And it's not. And I think what's important too is sometimes even like the most basic of things that because one could assume that like, okay, hey, they probably do still have some struggles and whatnot, but they don't ever struggle with like the basics. And
Right.
I would say that that is like not true. At some
100%.
at some point, no matter how successful someone is and with something, they'll struggle with the basics because again, we're human. So, anyways, I just thought it was important to share that.
Love you sharing it. Gosh.
I thought you were saying, "Love you, Sharon." Who's Sharon?
I mean, I
Okay.
know a couple Sharons. I don't know that I'd love them necessarily.
All right. Are you ready?
Waiting on, I didn't think we were doing a segue, so let it rip, money grip.
Break my heart in one sentence.
Taylor Swift died in a plane crash.
That would not break my heart.
Well,
That
listen,
sounds so terrible. That sounds so terrible.
I
I mean,
mean,
I would be a little rocked like that. It's like when Kobe passed away. Like that I actually like I felt shook from that. Um I don't know if I would describe it as heartbroken.
but listen, you knew. Well, first, before I go into that, just a little context for the lifers here, because we were,
And for me, cuz I don't
well,
know.
you'll get it.
Okay.
But she brought this sheet to me, and then she went back down to her spot, and we were getting ready for the thing, right? And I look up at the video screen, and she's on there, and she's looking at him, and she's like, "Oh, definitely ask this one."
I
And I'm
was
going,
doing
"Yep,
it for efficiency because I didn't want to take too long, like having to like sort through
right.
them. So I was doing it for time's sake because we don't edit this podcast.
I get it. I get it. I'm just saying, this is the differences. You were doing all that. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to look down. Whichever one grabs my eye, that's where we're going because
I'm
God has a plan and
sorry.
He's going to steer
I'm
my eyeballs. You
sorry
don't
you
need to.
don't
You don't need
think
to
ahead like I know
apologize.
I don't need to apologize, but I'm just saying I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you don't think ahead like I do.
Anyway,
Anyways,
you
okay.
had to realize that you were going to be playing with fire asking this question.
I did. I was curious as to what direction you would go with it, but
And
yeah.
so, my thinking is, do I want to take this to a horrible place and like, possibly derail everything
No,
by
I think you wouldn't derail everything. No, I think that question. No, I think that I really like that question, honestly, because one, it's hypothetical. I guess it doesn't have to be hypothetical. Like you
there's
could
that.
actually say something with some truth there. But I think that's a question, and these questions, by the way, were specifically like they were made for partners, like where I pulled them from. It was for partners. Um, I think a question like that can say a lot about what you know about your significant other, right? When
Sure.
you know their heart well enough to know what would crush it.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, it could have gone a
Okay.
lot of different directions, but I'm just saying, I think it's a good
Okay.
question.
As soon as this podcast is done, I'm
You'll
going to
tell
walk
me
out the
there.
door. I'm going to pick up our kids from school and we're leaving you.
That makes me teary eyed. You just saying it. See,
See, I told you were playing with fire when you asked this question.
I know, but again, it's
And I'm taking your
really.
mom.
I'm just kidding. No,
Praise God
I
you're not
would.
watching this video, Constance.
No, that would break my heart too. No, like it's okay that I'm a little teary eyed because again, like what's important to me, right? And that would
Yep.
break my heart.
Do you need a minute to gather yourself?
Nope, I am gathered.
Okay. What would you do if you were a 5-year-old for one day?
Um, I immediately thought of what I figure your response would be. Play with my poop.
What?
That's what came into my brain in your
Okay,
voice, in your
flashback to
voice.
48 seconds ago when you were like, well, this question is really important because it shows how well you know your partner, right?
Right.
And so now you're saying you know me so well that if I were a 5-year-old, I would play with poop.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If I were a
Wow.
5-year old, if I were a 5-year old, what would I do? Is that what it was
Yeah. What would you do if you were a 5-year-old for one day?
for one day?
Yeah,
Uh, I mean, whatever I wanted. Little kids get away with everything, get to do
that is
whatever they
true.
want. I mean, yeah, I would want to run and play outdoors, just be free. I mean, I know that's not necessarily what a 5-year old is thinking,
Right. But that's
but
the
as an adult, thinking back to that time, being able to think about it as an adult, I think that's what is most attractive about that time of life is you think back to like, here they come, folks. No, you just think back to that time of life and it's like, man, like to be that free again, specifically just like mentally free at that age, right?
right.
Just to live without the weight of life. And that being said, again, something else I talk to my clients about and, myself and my own reflection process and growth process is, getting rid of that belief that being able to live that way, right? That we maybe look upon little kids when they're 5 or whatever, and we're like, "Oh, remember those days when it was just carefree and like whatever." We tell ourselves this story that like it's not possible to live that way now. And I think one of the things that I keep trying to work on and keep trying to push my clients to work on is why not? And how could you
Right.
create more of that feeling of living without the weight in your brain? And of course, we cannot live without responsibility. Like you're not going to
Right.
escape responsibility in your life. That's not what I'm saying. Uh, but how
I
could
mean, you
you
can, but it's pretty bleak.
right. Um, but yeah, but like how can you bring some of that carefree living back into your life? How can you live with less mental weight in your life? What could you do? What could you change to feel some of those ways that you felt during that time? Because that's what it's all about, right? Like you're chasing a feeling,
Right.
and so it's like, what could I shift in my life? What could I shift within myself that would allow me to feel those feelings that I have a desire for when I think back to that age?
Eloquently stated, love.
I told you these questions were going to be great in allowing
Oh,
us
I
to
mean,
elaborate
you killed it.
on a variety of
You
things.
understood the
The
assignment.
assignment, I mean, I was a good student.
I'm sure you were. Nerd.
We'll do a couple more. What describe your routine in one sentence as a 70-year-old?
As a 70-year-old,
Yeah, when you think of yourself when you're going to turn 70, what's your routine? Like what do you want your like basically a day in the life of Justin at 70? Like what's the plan, Stan?
do you say one word though?
No, one sentence. I
Oh,
mean,
one sentence.
yeah, like basically don't go on and on and on, like keep it concise.
I would say my routine at 70 will be consistent and generous.
Interesting. What does that mean?
It means I will still be taking time to take care of myself. I will still be intentionally moving my body every day. I will still be being mindful of what I eat. I will still be um, feeding my brain consistently, taking care of my brain really extra hard at that point. Um, And then generous just from the standpoint of like, I hope at that point, that there's fewer day to day responsibilities per se, right? Like for right
Hmm.
now, like we have our kids we got to take care of every day, so that takes x amount of time, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. And so the generous side comes from the, you know, helping my kids with whatever they might need help with, picking their kids up or taking them here and being generous with my time, more time, my time, like at church and other volunteer things that, you know, I don't necessarily have time for because we're always running to and fro. Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
consistent and generous.
I think that's I have 2 points with that. But one, as you say that, I think that's something that definitely like your dad
Right.
illustrates. I mean, he's an incredible example of someone who is in his 70s, and not that, which ties into my other point. It's not like he just started to be this way in his
Right.
70s, but yeah, I mean, he's always like being generous to others, right? Like whatever we need help with, your siblings need help with, or you know, ask of him like if he can do it, he will.
Right.
And then anyone, whether it's a someone he knows, a good friend, or a former coworker, or a stranger in the Walmart parking lot, or like whatever, like he just, you know,
Yep.
yeah, like gives that away. But also, again, tying in with that is that these wouldn't necessarily, they may become even more intense at that age, but these also have to be things that you're already doing in your life, because you're not just going to turn 70 and those things just
Right. Of
automatically
course.
happen. So I
Right.
think
Of
it's worthy
course.
of saying, like, it's not like you're waiting until you're 70 to be consistent and generous. It's that it will be a continuation of how you're already working to live your life, but perhaps be able to turn it up a notch just because of life dynamics changing.
Right.
Cool.
Beautiful.
Love it.
If you could disappear to a place right now, where would it be?
I would go anywhere that it was warm with sunshine and I could have some peace and quiet on a beach, preferably a pool by the beach, because I'm not a big fan of like being in the ocean, but I want to see the ocean. So I would rather like be at a pool that's like right at the beach type thing. But yeah, literally take me away right now. I'm there. It's just
I thought you were going to go the sand and the butt crack direction, but
no, I mean, I don't really love sand. Who loves sand in their butt crack? Is there anyone that's like, oh yeah, that feels so amazing? I'm sure
I
there's
mean, I would
some
assume there's probably
weirdo out
some
there.
chat board that people talk about. Anyway,
We need to tell that story sometime.
we will sometime.
uh Not about, yeah,
Not
anyways.
sand, not butt cracks.
No. Dunk tanks and random
So
guys throughout the
don't
world.
give it away too much.
Anyways, no, like yeah, there's just something about water and warmth and quiet. And it doesn't have to be like silent. I don't need silence, but just that, what I'm talking about? Just like
Oh
that
yeah, I get it.
peacefulness that,
Yep, tranquility is what they
yeah.
call it.
And I mean, you could ask me to do something that was a little labor intensive, even in that environment. And I would be much more stoked to do that in that
Well,
environment.
sure.
So,
I
yeah.
was reading a thing this week that there's a lot of magnesium chloride in the ocean.
Okay.
That's one of the elements in the water, and that's why it is so restorative because our bodies need magnesium chloride. So
Huh.
something to chew on there, little nug, if you will.
Of course you knew that. I love it.
Well, like I said, I read it somewhere this week and just came across, filed it
Always
away for future use.
Always useful. Always useful. All right, gang. Well, I hope that there was some value in that for you. I mean, that's always the hope, right? This isn't just for just because we just want to sit here and talk
Right.
about ourselves.
We're not here to listen to ourselves talk.
No. we do that the rest of the day. But
Right.
no, like hopefully by some of these things that we share, whether it's just completely off the cuff in episodes or on an episode like today where we take these questions and then elaborate, giving you a little insight into our minds and our life and our experiences, our hope is that maybe you feel less alone. Maybe you feel like something is a little bit more possible that you had maybe been doubting the possibility of for yourself. And just more so than anything, just understanding that it ain't just you.
Right.
It ain't just you.
Everybody
Yeah.
poops.
Everybody poops. That's the slogan for the week. So
See, there you go.
we will see you next week.
See, I do the little piece thing back to her because she's ending the thing, and then she ends the thing, but it doesn't end the thing because Zoom is like, oh, I'm going to end the meeting by the person that organized it and scheduled it and all that fun stuff. But anybody else can stay on and do whatever they'd like to do. It's weird. Like if I click end meeting, it should just end meeting, and everybody's staring at a blank screen going, oh crap, where'd everybody go? You know? Because let's be honest, you've all been on that work Zoom call, Teams meeting, whatever, and you're not really paying attention, and all of a sudden you realize, oh shit, it got really quiet, and then you click over and you're the only one left in the meeting, or maybe you and like two other people that were doing the same thing, not really paying attention to the meeting. Anyway, that's all for this week. Remember, everybody poops.